Alright, everybody, welcome back to Praetor Magic. My name is DM Cross. I'm your host tonight, and this is Reflections of the Council. This is our live podcast that we do every Monday. Me and my co-host, slash, sometimes friend, slash, sometimes enemy, usually enemy, Phyrexian Walker.
Well, we're only enemies because we play Magic against each other so often.
Actually, to be fair, last Saturday we didn't play against each other at all, and I enjoyed it immensely.
That's true. I mean, I enjoyed myself too. Marwin did elf things, and I don't know. I wonder how much on that first game was John didn't have the counter spell, and how much was he really just was done, and he's like, "Come on, what are you people doing?"
Your
But it was
creature's
fun.
spells couldn't be countered.
Yeah, but the staff
Oh,
of
you mean the
domination could
staff?
have been countered. Yeah. So I keep wondering if he actually had the pitch counter there or if he just didn't have it.
I
But
don't
he did
know.
have 25 cards in hand, so I knew the odds were pretty good that he had a way to counter it, even with just one mana. But
I mean, he had 2 free counters in his deck, so.
mm-hmm.
But, anyway. Of course, before we get too far into that, we do want to remind you that that stream and this stream are both sponsored by our friends over at inkgaming.com, where it's your game, your style. They do everything from your custom playmats to your custom mouse pads, custom dice bags, and pretty much anything you might want to do to customize how you play your game to your style. So if you use the affiliate link down below, that lets them know that we sent you, and of course we want to say thank you by offering you 10% off your purchase by the use of our coupon code, which is Praetor10, PRAETOR10. Just use that coupon code. You'll get 10% off your purchase and help support the team and all the content that we put out. And thank you very much, of course. So, before we get into the topic, we've been doing the kill on site thing for a little while now. I'm enjoying it. And this time I came up with something that I think I might kind of stump you with.
Uh-oh.
Because we're not going to do anything like super. The first one I did was like super easy, right? I was like, oh, what's a kill on? I think we did Commander the first time you came back because I had done Commander the very first time I thought of the idea. And then.
Yeah, you've given me some softballs, just throwing them up there for me.
Alright, well, I'm going to do something that I hope is a little bit harder for you to think about, or at least gives you a pause. But a kill on sight archetype. So somebody puts on the commander, and everybody's like, "Oh, how's your deck built?" Blah blah blah. Especially with a lot of commanders can be built a lot of different ways. And somebody says, "Oh, I just want to do X," and I'm gonna make you go first to put even more pressure on you. Somebody sits down and says, "I just want my deck to do blah." Doesn't matter what the commander is. Doesn't matter what colors are playing. I want to do the thing. What is the thing that you are like? I have to kill you on sight because I hate you. See, I told you I was gonna make it a little harder.
Yeah, I think it's close, but I really believe Chaos decks have to hold a special part in my heart here.
Really?
And I'd say that or group HUD decks.
Alright, so before you say anything else, I'm going to just hit the button to reveal the card because I had a card prepped, because I almost always have a card prepped. Because I was going to say Chaos decks, and the card I have prepped is Eye of the Storm. Well known, pretty, common card in Chaos decks. And it's just the first one that always jumps to my mind when I think of Chaos decks. Also, hello, New Dark Cloud in chat. But yeah, stuff like this, usually it's obviously blue-red Chaos decks. John's a big lover of Chaos decks, and he doesn't play them as much for my benefit because I hate it so much. So I thought it was either going to be this or like Hate Bears decks for you, because Hate Bears typically implies like Grave Hate or Stacks even a little bit.
I'd say that, yeah, Stacks and Hate Bears are kind of up there too. Any deck that tends to run cards like Humility or Torpor Orb or Winter Orb would probably go up there pretty high with me too, but I don't know. I have a special hate in my heart for Group Hug and for Chaos decks.
Why do you hate Group Hug so much?
I don't know. I don't know why. I just don't like it. Do I have to have a reason? I mean,
well, yeah, because we want to understand why you're gonna mercilessly kill somebody who's, especially Group Hug, is just trying to help out, man.
Yeah, they're trying to help out, But usually group hug isn't actually group hug. It's usually group slug, just pretending that they like you until they actually reveal why they don't like you. I would say New Dark Cloud, I mind those chaos decks less when that they have like he asked if chaos decks when the pilot has ways to take advantage of the chaos to accrue more net value. I don't mind those chaos decks as much as I mind other. I still dislike them. I dislike a lot of cards they play. I
hate
really, 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 really hate the card Time Sifter.
I hate Time
I
Shifter.
got so triggered when John played it the other night. I got destroyed on my next turn. Literally, I got the extra turn and I destroyed it. But I was still triggered because I hate the card so much.
Well,
the Time Sifters for 5 minutes. That's just put up on the screen. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, each player removes the top card of hers or her library from the game. Player who removed the card with the highest converted mana cost takes an extra turn after this one. If 2 or more players' cards are tied for the highest cost, the tied players repeat the process until the tie is broken. So literally someone can play this card and then you just never actually play your actual turn again.
yeah, you could potentially get kind of locked out, especially if you have like a low curve deck or something like that.
Oh yeah, and a lot of my decks are low curve decks. I try to be efficient with my decks and my mana curves. So like,
I mean, when this got played, you got the extra turn.
When this card came out, I was playing my Planeswalker deck, and Planeswalkers tend to have higher converted mana costs. So
you were fine.
But if I was playing like Elves, I literally, unless I just happen to hit a Crater Hoof or one of my few high CMC spells in the deck, would never actually have another turn because I'd be revealing 1, 2, and 3 drops for the entire game.
So to give my answer for New Dark's question about chaos decks that basically have more of a purpose than just chaos for the sake of chaos, no, I hate them all. I don't care if somebody is accruing extra value. I hate the idea that I am no longer in control of my part of the game. And there's always like a certain element of control that you give up anyway, because like control players, even like stacks players or something like that, or just like people just doing their own interaction. It doesn't have to even be control. If somebody removes something, obviously I don't have as much control over that in general. But when it's almost designed to make like even playing my spells out of my control, that's where it's like, oh my god, I just like I hate it so much. I just want to let me cast my card. Like, at least let me do that. You want to counter it or whatever? That's fine. I can handle that because that's your reaction to me. But, like, don't make it so that I can't do my thing the way I want to do it. He also asked, what about politics decks versus group hugs? Which politic decks are typically ones that... I think politics are basically control decks with a little bit more interaction from the rest of the table. And, like, control decks can play politics, the archetype politics, by saying, hey, what do I get if I handle this problem? You know. So, control and politics are fine. I think that's just kind of part of the game anyway. When it's a 4-player format, I think you should have a little bit of that in almost every game. Unless it's, like, everybody just like, hey, I just want to slug it out, aggro decks or something like that crazy.
But I do agree with New Dark. But I think the reason I said in a way yes is because yes, I'm still going to be powerfully annoyed by the cards they're playing. I'm going to be triggered by the cards they're playing, and I don't like not having control. But at least I can respect a little bit more the way they're playing the game. Because if they're playing it in such a way that they're trying to get advantage and they're trying to win, like they're trying to get an advantage of it and using it as a way to win the game, I can respect that more than the person who literally sat down the other day with the player who literally said, this deck has no real win cost. I'm just playing chaos effects and trying to watch the world burn.
I kind of wonder why people like sleeve up those decks to play. Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
And it took me like 2 hours to kill them through all the chaos effects and all the effects on actually being able to play my spells. But I tried to kill them the whole game. Now, if the other 2 players had helped me a little bit more, we could have killed them faster. But for some reason, they didn't want to until it got really bad. And then they started being like, oh, yeah, we need to kill this guy. And I'm like, I told you from the get-go he was going to play crappy cards like this, and we need to kill him. Why weren't you listening to me?
Nobody.
But we did eventually kill him, and I took the final blow, and I felt very vindicated.
Nobody listens to you. Come on, you're not a very trustworthy voice. I'm sorry.
We weren't using voice. It was all.
You're like, how I just assumed. You don't have a. Yeah, I was about to say you don't have a trustworthy vocabulary. Then I guess.
I guess not. I guess even my typing tone is not trustworthy. But yeah, I mean, I do get very triggered by that. I don't like group hug just for the same general reason. I mean, yes, they have a win con. I don't like the concept of playing cards that are innately bad. And that's what group hug decks do. They play cards that just are bad. They're not cards that you would play in any other strategy and be like, oh yeah, this is a great card to play. I mean, no.
I kind of don't mind the group hug as much because I feel like it's a psychological game. Like, you're right. The cards are, from a competitive stance, they're worse, but they are doing that with the purpose of being allowed certain, like, they trade in the value of their cards for the value that they get out of doing that thing to the players, that psychological value. And I kind of like that. My
psychological value is I will hit you in the face until you're dead.
That's not very psychological, Phyrexian. I hate to be the one to tell you that's not. I mean, you may have a psychological issue that you need to work through because you don't like hugs, but
saying that's actually true in real life. I really don't like hugs, so maybe
there you go. Yeah, see,
my aversion to being hugged.
All right,
my aversion to being given things.
Today on Reflections, we decided to be Phyrexian's group therapy. So, work through your problems. You all right?
Nope.
Okay. Nope. All right. So, interesting. I think we both kind of agreed on Chaos being an archetype that just has to go. Group hug I'm a little iffier on, but I'll be with you on the Chaos archetype. So, for this week, it's actually a very special week. Phyrexian, why is this week so special?
Because it's Thanksgiving.
Yes! No. Son of a... I knew he was going to do something dumb. You actually threw me for that one. I didn't think... Because we're recording these for later, I didn't think you were going to say that. But here we are. Yes, we are recording this Monday before Thanksgiving. However, comma space. Pause for effect.
It is our 50th episode.
There we go. Yay!
Got there. Hashtag got there.
We've had 50 episodes, and if you've been watching or listening for all 50 episodes, one, thank you very much. That's probably amazing. And two, yeah, it's been. And think about the evolution of this podcast. Think of all the things that we've changed or evolved or improved upon.
The co-hosts we've had and left behind.
Killed and reanimated for other jobs. We've had a bunch of guests on the thing, and we're gonna have a guest actually next Monday as well. We're gonna have Kessler's gonna come in and talk about what planeswalkers would be best as commanders if they were legal. Wow, New Dark Cloud, wow. Savage in the chat goes, "You've improved?" ?
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. The overlays have massively improved, in my honest opinion. Thank you. New Dark. I thought we were friends. I thought we were cool. But the topic for this 50th episode, we decided to do something that was kind of fun. Something that I think both Phyrexian and I can talk a while about without hopefully breaking our hour curfew that we've eaten up about 50 minutes already. We're going to talk about...
The kill on site question was sort of on theme.
Huh?
I said the kill on site question was sort of on theme.
It was, actually, because we are talking about themes in general. So we're going to be talking about some of our favorite theme decks that we've run. And I thought about this after I proposed the idea, and we agreed to basically do it, I didn't realize at the time, but theme could mean different things to different people. So I'm going to be really interested to hear what your responses are to the question, because my responses are not orthodox picks, I guess you could say, because I have 3 decks in mind that I'm going to talk a little bit about as we go through, and they're not themes in terms of mechanical themes or that. It's more flavorful themes. So I didn't know how you took it, which is why, of course, I'd like you to go first and tell us about one of your favorite themed commanders.
I'd say for this, my favorite themed commanders would be Izzet Storm.
Mm-hmm. Who's the commander?
I kind of had 2 decks that I built around this concept in different ways. there was my Jorah 3DH deck.
Is that the Weatherlight Captain?
Captain. Whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. Artifacts, legendaries, and stars are historic. For 2 and a blue and a red. So that's the first one. So this one was 3DH legal, just playing a bunch of artifacts, trying to reduce the cost of artifacts, and using Jorah's draw ability and some other cards that have the similar draw ability for artifacts and stuff like that to just try to, storm off, make a bunch of mana, do a bunch of artifact things for free, hit an Aetherflux Reservoir, and just kill people. But we talked about it a little bit in our last episode about how I enjoy Storm just as an archetype. So I really like this card because it gave those artifact decks trying to do that a lot of potential. And then the other one is one of my MOCL decks, or now Commander Online. I originally made it for MOCL, and now it's just Commander Online, which is Keranos, God of the Storms.
No, it's just of Storms. You always do that.
I called him God of the Storms the entire episode, if you remember. Because that's all I was trying to do was do the storm thing and storm off.
Yes, I remember you said it incorrectly every time. I remember.
And specifically, this Keranos deck is designed to use one of 2 cards, which are Reality Scramble and Reweave, to turn Keranos into 1,000-Year Storm. So it's literally meant to take Keranos and turn him into 1,000-Year Storm because he's the only other enchantment in the deck. So if I cast a Reality Scramble on him, all of a sudden, Keranos goes from being the god of the storms to a storm that lasts 1,000 years. And we storm off and do things. Now, I don't believe that happened in the games I've played on it so far. I have done it in other games that I've played with this deck. I really enjoy playing this deck. I have lots of fun. And my opponents do until the turn I start storming off, in which case they might be like, hey, this is really cool, but don't do that again.
It's kind of like the Ayara deck that we had on 3DH last Thursday. I was like, oh yeah, that's I see how that's a cool, way to win the game, but also kill him first next time.
Yeah. But yeah, and Dark Cloud makes a good point. It's like, I like Storm, but in my experience, it's far too easy to dawdle for a 10-minute turn and get nothing. So yes, that does happen sometimes. And that's one thing I do like about Storm is that sometimes you start on the path to victory and you don't exactly know that path is going to lead to victory. It's like, well, I've got good odds. Like, it's really trying to determine, do I have good enough odds to try to go off this turn? Because very frequently you aren't holding the 20 cards in hand that you need to win, but you're going to draw 20 cards in your turn, and you're hoping that those 20 cards get you there, that you don't just brick and hit a bunch of lands. Because that can happen on a turn when you're trying to go off with Jorah. All of a sudden you draw like 3 or 4 lands in a row, and then you run out of artifact draws, and then you're just like, oh, well, this is awkward. I don't have any more artifacts, so I guess pass turn to you. Don't kill me before I get back around to my turn. But yeah, and most people are trying to kill you at that point because they've realized what you're trying to do. And that's another thing that's really cool about Keranos is so many people don't realize what I'm trying to do with Keranos until it actually starts. Most people realize with Jorah because Jorah was a pretty common artifact heavy, stormy kind of build, like just normally. But with Keranos, a lot of times when I'm playing it like in the wild on MTGO, people don't realize what's going on with it until it's already gone off. So that's one archetype theme I really like is Storm, and particularly those 2 decks that I've played, where I've just enjoyed storming off with artifacts or.
You're the worst. Just the absolute worst. Gonna take 10-minute turns and then just not do anything.
Usually I take 10 to 20-minute turns and everyone dies, but there are occasions where I take 10 to 20-minute turns and nothing happens, and then I apologize to everyone.
Do they stop playing? Like, do they report you or?
Not usually.
Interesting.
But I have ran it back with people before, and they're like, "Well, let's play another game," and they're like, "Don't play that one again. Play a different deck." I'm like, "That's fine.
Play something else."
That's fair. I'm like, it's not the only deck I have. It's just a deck that I enjoy playing and pulling out of the closet every now and again to play. And eventually I'll play it on Commander Online again.
Ooh.
But We aren't there yet. I still have a lot of other new decks to play before we get back to me playing repeats.
Or just never again.
I mean,
Also, you're fired. Alright, for my first one, this is a deck actually I think I've talked a lot about. I don't know if necessarily on the podcast, but I've mentioned it in the articles I write for EDA Trek. I've talked about it on Discord. I've talked about it on Twitter a whole bunch of times. It's honestly one of my favorite decks, and it is... And actually, I think you'll like at least this commander. Marchesa the Black Rose, but when I built her, I had just been building Olivia Volderin, the OG one, the steal your stuff kind of, the steal your stuff tournament vampires commander, and I wanted a vampire deck, but it wasn't. It was too mana intensive, I think, which Olivia has that problem because she requires a lot of mana to ping things, turn them into vampires, and then take over them, and turn them into your vampires. So John, the other Praetor John, is sat down with me one day and we started looking into Marchesa being a vampire commander because one, she has black and red, and then her ability with the dethrone and the when things die they come back under your battlefield, at the beginning of the next end step, was uniquely strong with the vampires, the more Rakdos vampires from Innistrad. There was a lot of cards that were from Innistrad, either that gave vampires +1/+1 counters when they hit, or this specific vampire got +1/+1 counters when it hit, or some of the curses gave you +1/+1 counters when you hit and stuff like that. So there was actually a lot of
effects.
Yep. Yeah. There was, and then even like Bloodthirst was another mechanic from another set where, like, hey, if people have already taken damage, then you can bring creatures down with that many +1/+1 counters, whatever the Bloodthirst cost was, whether it was 2, 3, 1, whatever. So there was a lot of effects that we just started as we were looking through like collections and stuff or looking online. We were like, oh wow, there's actually a lot of +1/+1 counters in vampires. So she became my vampire commander for a long time. A good 2 years at least before I think I eventually parted this deck. I don't remember why. And it's just one of
Edgar Markov came out.
No, this was actually a little bit before Edgar Markov came out that I parted her. I think I parted her when I parted all my decks for partners. Because I did that when they first came out. I was like, oh, I'm just going to run all partner decks. And it's kind of a mistake because I did enjoy this deck so much. And I keep saying that I'm going to remake it and obviously upgrade it with all the vampires that have come out in the past 3 to 4 years. It's been since I played this deck. But another thing that vampires are really good at too not that vampires, quote unquote, were good at, but black is really good at is paying life. And that became really important for Marchesa's dethrone ability, where you need to be attacking the person at the highest life total. So you get to attack whoever's, quote unquote, on the throne, and you need to not be that person. So greed effects were really important in the deck, which there's now, a few more of those since when I made this deck, because I made this deck I think before Theros, or maybe right after Theros. So Erebos was either new or hadn't come out yet, and now we have Argo's Bloodfast, and we have a couple other effects that are hey, pay life to do the thing. I don't know if I would dilute the deck if I were to remake it into some other things that would work really well with paying life, who is it, Villas, the Bloodwoke?
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be really good in the deck, but also I'd have to look at it because he only does it for black mana, so maybe a little iffy, but it's just something to think about. If you go through and look at vampires or cards from Innistrad in general, the Innistrad first one, and look for +1/+1 counters in Grixis colors, you'll be surprised at how much you find. And then there were even some other things like Dax Duplicant, where I could steal, quote unquote, somebody or copy somebody else's creatures and stuff like that, and I had ways of turning all my stuff into vampires, which even again now is even easier now that we've had Arcane Adaptation and stuff like that. So there were ways for me to get Marchesa to become a vampire, even though she wasn't a vampire naturally. So she became my vampire queen. So, all right, you got another one you want to talk about?
I guess the next kind of theme strategy I'd go to, or I'll talk about, is token strategies.
Oh boy.
So we'll start off here with a very obvious token commander, which is Reese the Redeemed.
I went to type it too. Like as you said, token strategies. Like, oh, I should just put Reads the Redeemed on here because I'm pretty sure this is gonna come up at some point. But then I was like, no. What if that's not the commander? What if he did like something like more unique or something?
Again, I've built a lot of decks in 3DH, but I had a 3DH deck, and I had lots of fun making just tons of tokens and pooping out more tokens with Reese's ability. And he just is like the quintessential like token commander if you're playing in Selesnya. But then I like the go wide strategy of making all the tokens. There are some cards that hose you really hard when you're playing tokens, but
yeah,
that's that is the risk you play sometimes when you're running a bunch of 1/1s or a bunch of whatever and trying to make them bigger. And then kind of in the same vein of tokens, the Wart the Raid Mother.
okay.
Because this kind of combines my love of tokens and my love of stormy things, because a lot of times Wart's just trying to, use the conspirability to conspire a bunch of stuff, make a ton of tokens, and then, give everything haste and try for the horde someone out with a bunch of tokens.
Do you conspire the Triumph of the Horde to get the extra +1/+1?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any doubt that you do
Well, I don't know, because depending on like the size of your field at the time, I'm sure it's a little bit situational where maybe you do need those extra 2 creatures for the damage or something.
No.
Okay.
If Wart's doing what Wart's supposed to do, my field is so large that I'm breaking the token limit on MTGO.
I just like
pretty consistently, like with Wart and my Reese deck for 3DH, I was just breaking the token limit. But Wart could do it faster, just because of the sheer amount of tokens it could make in a turn, doing awful things. And then kind of the last tokening deck I kind of pulled for this theme was a little bit different because it was Krav and Ragna.
Ooh.
And so that deck I went really hard on tokens, but I went really hard on tokens as kind of the theme of, sacrificing the tokens for value / kind of aristocrat-y thing, running cards like the Pitiless Plunderer, where you get the treasure tokens and just stuff like that. Like where I'm trying, yes, I'm doing that, and then like Mentor of the Meek, so when these tokens are in the battlefield, I can pay 1 to draw more cards, and then obviously Krav's ability just works with it, and Ragna makes more tokens, and so it's using all those things to try to use those tokens just to like the most value I can get out of these little tokens that I don't intend to stick around and I never intend to attack with. I just want to use them to end up like Zulaport, Cutthroating, Suture Priest, whatever it may be, someone out of the game.
It's very aristocrat-y. It's a more aristocrat.
It's a very aristocrat-y build.
Yeah.
New Dark Cloud did talk about it earlier. Shout out. He said aristocrats as soon as we start talking about this. But so it has that aristocrat-y build, but at the same time, it was completely based around making tokens to use for the aristocrat-y build.
Okay. Interesting. I like that the strategy for the deck massively changes based on the colors, right? Mm-hmm. Like even Wart the Raid Mother is still kind of the same thing, because with the Risk of Redeemed and Wart the Raid Mother, you can do the same thing, make your field really wide, and then swing out whether it's Crater Hoof, whether it's Overwhelming Stampede, Overrun, or Triumph of the Horde, like you mentioned. Whereas obviously you don't have any of those options in Krav and Ragna because you don't have green, so you have to think of like, how do I use these tokens to do? How do I win the game with these tokens as opposed to beating face, essentially? And you have to do it with that like aristocrat-y like combo. People typically associate aristocrats with more combo finishes, which is iffy. There are combo finishes that fit well into an aristocrat deck, but in general, like stuff like that, I don't know. It's just interesting to see how it's the same archetype. You're still a token deck, but we don't even consider that a token strategy, right? We consider that an aristocrat strategy, even if you're using tokens to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting on how
that's kind of why I picked out those 3 decks, is to show how yes, all of them are essentially tokens, but they all went about doing their thing in different ways.
Yeah. Nice, nice. All right, yeah. I also had a deck that I was going to talk about that was white and black, and that's because so I hmm I forget how I thought of this one, but once upon a time, like right after I think he came out, uh, I wanted to play a Karlov the Ghost Council deck, but oh, I remember actually how this whole thing got started. It wasn't from Karlov. Karlov actually came later on when I was trying to think of the commander and how to run the deck. But the card Necromancer's Covenant, which is an enchantment, it costs 3, a white, and 2 black. It is a rare enchantment. It's actually from a commander set. When it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard, then put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield for each card exiled this way. Zombies you control have lifelink. So it was an interesting thing for me to think about lifelinking zombies in white and black, because at the time of this card's printing, zombies were not really white and black. This was before Ixalan, and this was before Varina, and
Yeah.
like zombies were black and blue, and that was pretty much it. Mostly black. Like they were obviously very big mono black, and they still are, but it was really black, black and blue, and that's about it. So I did this because I wanted to do a mesh between a life gain theme and a zombie tribal theme. So I had a lot of, your standard zombie tribal stuff. I started seeing, or not seeing, but finding cards where, like, if a zombie would die, you would gain a life, and an opponent would lose a life. There's a newer one from a Monkhead, Plague Belcher, I believe, that does that similar effect. But that all ties in really well for Karlov, because Karlov, when you gain life, put 2 1/1 counters on him, and then you can pay mana, a white and a black, to remove 6 1/1 counters to exile target creatures. So my commander became this, like, removal on a stick, essentially, for most of the game, or potentially ending the game with commander damage, especially because white and black are not, super bad at finding ways to get through, whether through intimidate, fear, flying, or whatever, or just protection. If I were to put like Holy Mantle or something on Karlov, then you're not going to block him.
Or just killing your opponent's board.
Yeah. I mean, there's like so many ways for Karlov to be able to hit with somebody, and like the fact that he triggers when like your army of zombies hit somebody, he triggers for each time. That's crazy too. God forbid you find a way to give like just your zombies first strike. That'd be crazy. Where like they all hit, they gain life, 10 times, but then that's 10 triggers on Karlov, and then he hits for 22 damage because he's a 2/2 to start off. So it was a really interesting deck. This was also before like Aether Flux Reservoir was printed. So I think if I were to do something like this again, that would probably be another big card in it. It would probably be. I mean, you can run Karlov very easily without it being a vampire. I mean, a zombie deck. But I think it would actually be more interesting to do it now, because like there are so many good strategies and stuff with it. Anointed Procession, which got printed in a Monkhead, is now a good token card for white. There's just so many new zombie cards in white and black in general because of, again, Monkhead, and then other sets that came out after that. So it would be really interesting to see how my original list, which, like, obviously looking back between this and even the Marchesa deck, were a little bit lower powered, because that was just the meta that we were in. We were all newer players to the format, so it would be interesting to see like how I would build it now, or like if I would be tempted to just completely change like from the theme, I guess, to do something a little bit more conventional, I guess. Like you just have like the whatever, it doesn't matter as long as you gain a life triggers, something like that. But I remember like I was running like Soul Sisters and stuff like that, because then when I did get a bunch of zombie tokens or whatever, they would all trigger. Each one of those triggers would give Karlov life. It was pretty sweet. I upset many a player by just exiling half their field. Sit there and be like, draw a card, put down a land, maybe attack. That's all I need to do, because I need to hold up all these removal spells, which is just my commander. Alright, you got one more?
One more.
One more each.
Uh-oh. I had so many more than one more.
Well, that's why I said you pick your favorites.
fine. I mean, if we're gonna go favorites, I technically probably have to go graveyard decks.
Yeah.
But
There's so many good graveyard commanders, though.
there's so many good graveyard commanders. And I think instead I'll pivot and talk about one I had down the list a little bit, but I think is a very interesting one, and that's value decks.
Oh, not group hug. Good stuff decks, kind of.
Sort of, but just decks that are looking to get great value out of the commands playing. So my example of this was my Prime Speaker Zagana deck, which is literally just looking to draw cards and turn those cards I draw to immense amounts of value. Now, yes, it has the traditional finisher of if I can manage to. Yeah, Muldrotha can be a value deck too. It's just a different sort of value deck. But like Prime Speaker, just like for me, was just a way that I had ways to flicker it, like Conjurer's Closet or Deadeye Navigator. And I was just drawing so many cards a turn and then playing cards like
Lab Maniac.
well, yes, it did have the traditional Lab Maniac, and then Jace came out. It does have those in the deck as potential win cons, but more often I was winning the game by playing like a Toothy or some other card that just got ridiculously big from me drawing so many cards.
Boo, Lab Maniac player. Ew.
It would get ridiculously big and it would do ridiculous things. But I think like Simic is just well known for value decks, like
the
Simic value deck, Tachiova's value deck. New Dark Cloud said like Muldrotha. Yes, you can play Muldrotha as like graveyard return value. Like
Yarok.
Yarok the Desecrated. Even Brago, like the Brago Flicker deck I have, I would call that like just an immense value deck.
I think that's.
I mean, it's a control deck too.
Yeah,
but that's kind of like Muldrotha would also be a control deck too, like when you play the value style. But just
it can depend, because when I think of Muldrotha like value stuff, I think you are running less control stuff and more just I have more advantages than you. You know what I mean? And they could both work. I'm thinking Muldrotha value stuff is more like Baleful Strix, Mole Drifter, Disciple of Bolas, whereas control style that is a little bit more like Spore Frog and Dictate of Erebos effects, where like you still get value for what you're doing, but you're controlling at the same time. You know what I mean? You don't have to associate the two.
Or just
I think
looping Pernicious Deed over and over again for 5 mana.
Yeah.
So nobody can have any permanents that are less than 5.
That's a good control play. I like that play. What the problem is?
Like decks like this that are just built for powering out some value and getting lots of good things. And yes,
I'm not alone.
Huh?
I'm not alone.
Yeah. I did it once on stream too. That's when DM and my friendship almost ended that one night.
Yeah.
And then we both agreed to never play Muldrotha ever again.
And we haven't. Not on stream anyway.
No, we haven't. Not on stream. I've played my Muldrotha deck in other places off stream and stuff like that, but I've never played it again in a stream where you were going to be present or even watching.
I don't mind the deck. It was literally just like oh my god, this is taking so much longer than we wanted it to. Like that one game took like 3 hours, and I was like, dude, we just
nobody had a chance of winning at any point.
Yeah, we should have really just conceded. I think that was also something that probably, thinking back on it now, should have upset me more than just you playing the deck. Was like, man, why didn't we just like call it? Like it might not look like the greatest thing, but man, at a certain point it's like, enough's enough.
Yeah. But so I'd say like value decks really, really come as a dear place in my heart. I just like building decks that try to get the most out of like their commander's ability or what they're doing. And like I said, Prime Speaker being the prime example of that, because just because I literally was trying to use her ability over and over again, and whether that was her dying and recasting her, or whether it was ways to flicker her, I was just trying to flicker her, and she was the main card draw engine in the deck. Just get all the fun and draw all the cards and make her super big.
All right.
See?
All right. So, the last one that I'm going to talk about before we wrap things up is actually what I really meant when I thought about like theme. It was the flavor theme of it, and again, like this is something that like I think you can get lost in doing it, even if the cards aren't good. Like you get kind of a joy of playing a card. People are like, oh, why are you playing that card? Oh, well, let me tell you the story of my people. And I did this with Queen Marchesa. And the reason...
That's what your actual theme is Marchesa theme.
No. It was actually more the Queen part. And it was my Kingdom deck. And what I mean by Kingdom deck was every creature, every land, every sorcery, artifact, enchantment, instant, even I think the 1 or 2 planeswalkers I did have in the deck, all were part of the Kingdom. When I played Assemble of the Legion because a queen needs an army. I played Captain of the Watch because obviously she needs a captain of the watch. Like you have to have like a guard, right? I think I played Zergo, who was the general of her army. She had a pet dragon in Oros the Avenger. She had her clergy members in some of like the clerics and whatnot that I had in the deck, some of the white-black cards. Soldiers, when they're at war, will typically pray to a god, right, for good luck and everything. So obviously we had Irios, god of victory. The clergy obviously had to pray to a god to get the fallen soldiers from our plane to the afterlife. So I had Athreos in there for god of passage. And it was just stuff like that. Like all the cards were like, you know, this is this person in the kingdom, this is this person in the kingdom. It gave me an opportunity to run one of my favorite cards that I think is not a great card, but I always love playing with it because of the politics it creates and like the situation it creates, which is Humble Defector, which is just a crappy uncommon 2/1 human rogue for 1 in a red, and you tap him to draw 2 cards. Target opponent gains control of Humble Defector. Activate this ability only during your turn. Nothing special. Like, it's actually really not that great of a card because you draw 2 cards, but you're giving somebody else the opportunity to draw 2 cards. And normally in a situation, what you're going to do is tap it and sacrifice it in response to the trigger. Like, if you're going to run it at all, that way you get to draw the cards, but nobody else gets the thing. But I'll usually use this in like, hey, I have a way to kill that if you don't pass it in like turn order or something. So... you know, that's what we're going to do. Or, like, I'll strike a deal with somebody, especially if I'm in the lower place. I'll be like, hey, you're my opponent. I'm your opponent. We're in trouble. Let's get ourselves out of here. So, and then we'll pass it back and forth. New Dark Cloud, actually, first of all, thank you. New Dark Cloud, you actually remembered one of my decks. It's something that I haven't finalized or really gotten to play with. I think I've only played it twice, but on last season of Magic Online Commander League, which we no longer call it that, I did have a Minato Witch's Coven, which had a certain select few curses and then a bunch of planeswalkers that were my witches in the deck. That deck has evolved so much because I originally got the idea for wanting to do curses with like Bogbrew Witch, the Festering Newt, and the Bubbling Cauldron. And Cauldron, Newt, and Cauldron, Newt, and Witch are all like out of the deck now. And there are some other witches and stuff in there, but for the most part, like the deck doesn't really run the same way anymore. Better, but not the same way anymore. But stuff like that. That is really what I meant when I originally said theme. And then I was like, oh, that could mean a couple different things to a couple different people. So I even expanded like the diversity of my own list so that, you know, encompass all the ways that we could think about like a themed deck. Like it could be mechanically themed. It could be themed to a flavor thing. It could be themed to all the cards have to deal with like the commander. I've seen people do that, which I think is fairly popular. Everything has to deal with your commander or have some way to harken back.
The quintessential everything deals with Nicol Bolas deck.
Yeah, I think a lot of like either the OG Nicol Bolas, because some people still run it just for like kind of like nostalgia factor, or the newer one that flips. What is that? The Ravager?
The Ravager, yeah.
Yeah. Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, that way he can still be your commander even on Magic Online because he's a creature and then he flips into a planeswalker. But this is something that I see a lot of people run as very much Nicol Bolas. Actually, Brandon Sanderson just recently did this on the Command Zone on Game Night's episode that he was just on with Nissa Cosplay, aka Nadine, aka Nissa Cosplay, where he got to run like white spells with his, and he did all like Nicol Bolas, like steal your stuff or blow up your stuff or take control of your stuff or reanimate your stuff or whatever. He even, I like at one point in the game, he actually, it was spoiler if you haven't seen it by now, but it's been out for a couple weeks. He goes to bring a spell back to his hand, and at first he's like, oh, I'm going to bring this spell. And when you think about it in that situation, it's obviously the more logical choice. But then he's like, I don't think Nicol Bolas would pick up that spell. No, I'm going to pick up Cruel Ultimatum, because that's a Nicol Bolas spell.
And I can't even cast it because I don't have 3 black sources.
Exactly. He was like, it's a bad idea to grab spells from your graveyard that you can't cast in the first place. And sure enough, I don't think he ever actually casted the Cruel Ultimatum. Or he did like right at the end because he finally found his third swamp. But yeah, like stuff like that is where, like, when you're building decks like that and you can play games like that, it becomes really fun because it's less about winning and it's more about like, man, what would my character do? It's almost like playing a D&D game but with Magic, which is kind of a weird thing, but it does kind of work. We kind of did that with the D&D game where our decks were supposed to be an embodiment of a D&D like style class. I picked up Corvold, and I was the big bad evil guy, or the BBEG. So I was the dragon, king who is eating everybody and blah blah blah. And I think I did a pretty good job being the bad guy. But I also think I lost.
This is one that I've always struggled. Like, I did the Nicol Bolas kind of theme deck for the 3D8 stream where you guys really did treat me like arch enemy.
That's every game.
And I won anyway, but
that's every game.
But I don't know that I really did. I don't really do this a lot. Like, I don't pick like, oh, I think it'll be cool to be able to card like Witch's Coven or Kingdom like you've done, or like the chair deck, the infamous chair deck from Commander Versus, or any of that. Like, I don't do a lot of that, like just building around like a theme like that.
Yeah.
As much as I do like building around archetypes, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, my themes, as you can tell, were all like archetypes within it. Like within Magic, like even the value decks are like card draw is an archetype within Magic.
Yep.
You can build decks around it. But so like I've always struggled with doing this. Like, I think it's cool. I don't know if it's the amount of work it is or the fact that you're often picking cards that aren't idealized, and I have a hard time playing cards that I feel like aren't the best card to play. Like in that Nicol Bolas deck, it's like every card I had to play was 1 cent anyway with the cost of him at the time for 3H. So it was literally him and all basic lands and cards that were 1 cent. So that was a little bit easier because I'm already playing sub-optimal cards, so I might as well just have fun with it. But
I think a lot of it is, and this is another reason I guess why I wanted to bring the topic up, is that like you kind of have to have a little bit more of a vested interest in the character of your deck. It's not just what can your deck do mechanically. Because normally that's how we build decks. And normally that's how I build my decks. Like, what can my deck, what are the loops it can perform, what are the ways it can win, what are the ways it can get going and keep going, and blah, 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 blah. And, keep other people from stopping it and blah, blah, blah. And when we do
get a deck going to make the grade here.
Yeah. And that's how we typically think of deck brewing, because at the end of the day, like, it is a game that you're trying to win, right? So, blah, blah, blah. But I just think that this can be a fun not strategy, I guess it's not really a strategy, but a fun like exercise almost in breaking away from that and getting more into the character of your commander, or the character that your commander represents as a deck. Like, if you were if the person that you're building around, in this case Nicol Bolas, was playing the game, right? If this was an actual, or like we were in a story setting and Nicol Bolas was going to face off in battle with these 3 other people, what kind of spells would he use? What kind of strategies would he use? What kind, like, and you get to kind of do like the thing where you look at cards based on their name and not always necessarily what they do, Like Cruel Ultimatum is not a great example because I'm sure Nicol Bolas would love what Cruel Ultimatum does, because it does a lot of value stuff for him and against other people. But like the name, just that name, Cruel Ultimatum. That sounds like a very Nicol Bolas thing. If I didn't know what that card did, and you said, yeah, this card's in my Nicol Bolas deck, and I knew who Nicol Bolas was, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know what it does, but yeah, sure, okay. Hero's Downfall in Nicol Bolas. Yeah, okay. Of course. Like, he's one of the main villains, and he strives to be the downfall of the heroes, right? So cards like that, like, make sense, even if you don't always... Like, you don't have to necessarily look at what they do, or you kind of do that afterward. And that was always, like, kind of a fun thing for me, too, was that... And this comes up a lot of times when I'm writing my articles for EDH Rec, is that I try to find those ramp cards or those removal cards or what have you that synergize a little bit more with the commander. And they might still not be great cards, but I still put them in there because, like, with replacement commanders, that series is supposed to take the commanders that were there in the deck, but the deck wasn't built for them. Like, Volrath, right? In Kadena, Volrath doesn't care about morphs at all.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ryami. He doesn't care about morphs at all. The decks are not built for them. So I try to find those, like, intricate little cards. Like, look at Scroll of Fate in Kadena. Like, that card was obviously made for her because she doesn't care whether it's a morph, a manifest, or just a card put face down. She draws a card off of it. So, like, that's a specific card to her that is a way for her to draw cards, like one card a turn. You got to go and find those kind of cards for Volrath, for Ryami, and everything else. And that's kind of how the series keeps me coming back to it and makes me enjoy it the most, because, like, I get to go and find those cards where, like, how do I justify this card, or how do I find my card advantage or my removal or my ramp package or this, that, or the other thing, and make it work for the commander and not just be generic, like, everything's a Cultivate, everything's a Kadama's Reach, everything's a Farseek, etc., etc. Not that those cards are bad, but that's not always the cards that we get in precons. And that's the point of the series, is kind of make a more pre-conning feeling deck for those commanders that didn't get that kind of treatment. They just got put in the decks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
it can be fun.
Yeah, I get why people do it. It's just not.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it's never been my thing to do.
Yep. That's why you're no fun.
Yeah, I kind of am no fun.
Nicol Bolas decks are the easiest of these types because what he does tend to be in line with good magic. That's true. Being, like, the overarching protagonist for so long, or antagonist for so long, yeah. Like, it makes sense that he would have powerful spells, powerful abilities, and be able to hold back an army of good guys coming at him. So I agree that it's easier to do it with him than probably many of the other characters. I think there are some other characters that I think would work. Edgar Markov, I did a deck like that a little while ago. There was somebody else I did. Can't remember who it was. Oh, Gisa and Drolf. I did, like, all Innistrad style cards and, like, cards that reference them and stuff like that. And that was pretty fun. It was a pretty bad deck, but finding them was pretty fun. Chandra's probably another one, especially because there's Chandras. Yeah, and there's at least one Chandra that could be your commander. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's all right. Hey, Phyrexian, that was 50 episodes.
Woo!
All right,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, this is also the last one. I'm never coming back.
Oh well, it was good doing this with you, I guess.
Yeah, it was a fun project, but we're done. No,
no, that's what we do after the 100th episode.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, first of all, spoilers. All right, now everybody knows. Now we can't even use that joke. No, we will maybe not. Oh yeah, we will be here next Monday because we do have a guest. That'll be fun.
We'll definitely be here next Monday.
There will not be a Thursday stream because it's Thanksgiving. Next Saturday, not this upcoming Saturday, but next Saturday, there should be also a Commander Online episode that we're trying to make sure we have folks for. Apparently, we're kicking Phyrexian out something about being a jerk in the last one. I don't know. I was producing, but I was doing so much, like, other stuff, I wasn't paying attention. So.
Oh, wow. Too much of a jerk. Yeah.
You're always kind of a jerk. So.
That one turn was pretty awesome. Like, when you said this is essentially the quintessential, like, it doesn't matter if you're at one life turn.
Yeah,
that like turn was.
I enjoyed that turn, that play, Because it literally was, like, that's the first thing that came to mind was, this is when people say, like, you only need 1 life to win a game. This is what they're talking about. You were at 1 life or 2 life or something. No, you were at 3 life and then you went down.
Life, and I put myself at 1 life
with,
using
like,
my own ancient tomb to cast Morrowind again.
And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what people are talking about when they say you only need 1 life to win the game. Because even if you didn't win the game, the board state you went from to the board state you had, like, even if you had to pass and die, was complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So I like that. Like, that was a really cool moment where it's like, man, you only need 1 life to win. Here it is. This is exactly what we're saying. And sure enough, like, you did find, like, the pieces you needed. You drew so many cards.
So many cards that turn. So many.
All right, of course.
It was all thanks to John.
Actually, I think it was thanks to Patrick for
with that whelming weight.
No, I think it was thanks to Patrick with the friend or foe card, Pier's Whim.
He thinks, well, that's true. He did unleash Morrowind from her captivity.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe if you hadn't gotten the advantage at that point, you would have been too far behind by the time you did. Maybe you'd been knocked out. You're already at 1. Maybe you would have been at, like, -1.
Well, let's be honest. Danny had every opportunity to knock me out of that.
Danny was being. I think she was being nice to you because you got, like, not targeted, but, like, you got the short end of the stick in a few situations. Yeah. But I think you got kind of lucky there. Danny with her soft heart.
Because she definitely could have just gone double hit.
Yeah.
Hit somebody else with
Aurelia,
and double hit me with her commander, and then come right back and done it again with Palladia the next turn, and I would have died before I ever had that opportunity. Because that was the 3rd turn I got after, and I should have only gotten 2.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, spoilers and whatnot, but stuff happens.
I mean, watch the video if you want to see exactly what we were talking about.
That episode will be coming out on the YouTube channel, hopefully this week before the holiday. Right? Yeah, I should be able to manage that.
I mean, it should come out before this video, right?
No, not always. I usually sometimes do them on Mondays, but by the next Friday is, like, my absolute deadline. I have an article to write this week, buddy.
Hey, do your thing. You got a job to do.
I do. It's called writing articles. It's where our income comes from. Of course, we also get our income from our lovely sponsor, ThinkGaming.com, and of course our Patreon, patreon.com/Praetor Magic. Or if you want to subscribe to us here on Twitch, at twitch.tv/Praetor Magic. Of course, if you want to be part of these streams every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, just go over to us. Again, twitch.tv/Praetor Magic. And then you can follow us on facebook.com/Praetor Magic, twitter.com/Praetor Magic, or instagram.com/Praetor Magic. I think I stumbled over those, but I'm pretty sure you got the idea. And you can join us on our public Discord where you can talk to us pretty much anytime you want about Magic, provided we're awake, which I always am. Dear God, I'm so tired. But that is it for us this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Phyrexian, you got any last words?
Chaos decks suck.
You know what? We're going to go out on that because I agree with that. All right, guys. We'll see y'all next Monday with a guest. Peace.
Peace.